3 activities are you going to commit to? And these are income producing activities. And I'm volunteering our leadership team, including my time, to review your activities and measure your results. And if you're not getting 6 figures of additional income from 3 hours a day of dedicated activities, we're going to coach you. And if it's not working out, we'll sit with you to make sure that it works. Because you know, I've come across some people from my past who have had extraordinary results, and you know, in return live extraordinary lives from, you know, having a dedicated routine of prospecting. And one of the individuals is a gentleman by the name of Super Mike, who retired before he was 45, you know, purchased tons of real estate, is now living in the Caribbean. And people that were on Super Mike's team would always reiterate this to me, because I was talking to a possible candidate about joining us, who said that Super Mike had a tremendous influence upon how he does his business. And he's a $15 million producer. And he said, just don't mess with Mike while he was doing his prospecting. Like from 8:30 to 12 or 8:30 to 11:30, don't even bother calling him. Like it was like religion. Ironically, Mike was a very religious person spiritually, as well as very disciplined in what he did. But he made, you know, like $250,000 his first year in the real estate business by just dedicating himself to calling FSBOs and expireds. And he would be on the phone calling 3 hours nonstop every day. And he did that practice for his entire career. So that was the impetus for me saying, and I met with Mike Tejada and his team invited me to their team meeting. And I was just thinking to myself, if everybody just found whatever their 3 things were and committed to it and did it, you know, it would be completely life-changing. So I don't know, anybody have any comments before I kind of go a little bit deeper? I heard somebody trying to chime in.
Well, from being at the session yesterday, I would say these are definitely trainings that are good for everybody, even experienced people. Like I've been experienced for a little while now. I went and I learned a bunch of different ways to handle situations that were a little bit more challenging in the past. And it was less of a hard conversation and more of just kind of it's almost like making a friend with somebody. And it was just so many more opportunities and options for the conversation to go in a positive direction and negative.
And
took the fear out of making those calls, right, TJ?
Absolutely. If anything, it kind of motivates you when you see the call session happening and how easy the conversation's flowing, instead of the old model of, hey, have you decided to sell your home? We saw it expired. It's more so, how can we help you?
so, you know, it's the people who triple down on their skills that are going to get the result. Okay, if you do, you know, 3 hours a day, you know, I'm standing here on a Zoom meeting in front of how many, 61 people at this point, saying that that'll add $100,000 to your income. And you know, if you're skeptical of it, you know, I think what you need to do is set up a meeting with your office leadership, come up with a strategy, or your team leader if you're on a team, and decide what you want to invest in, and make sure that you're doing income producing activities during that period of time. And does anyone else know of anybody that, you know, did 2 or 3 hours of, you know, hardcore prospecting every day and had an exceptional career?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who wants to share? Who knows somebody, some story of somebody that was in their office? They used to lock themselves in their office for 2 or 3 hours and they were a top producer. And you don't need to mention names, but you can just share that with us without names.
So I know,
I know a team leader who would come into the office and sit and make phone calls for, it seemed 3 to 4 hours, and wouldn't even pick up if I called him. And he would call me when he finished and say, hey, look, I was making my calls, so I couldn't take your call.
Yep. So, and Robert,
Okay,
what type of producer was that individual? Do you recall?
He's over $30 million.
So if anyone here would like to be, in that $30 million range, follow the clues of people who've done it. All right. And, I would just encourage you, like, I'm not saying what to do, because you need to have your own personality and passion drive what your activities are. But I think if you were to select, 3 things that you do on a consistent basis and you measure the results, and I encourage you, I challenge you to share it with our leadership team, that we can help you measure it and hold you accountable to those activities. It's going to change your business, change your life. You're going to be able to help more people by, making these changes. Okay. If you own, a lot of the people that I've observed doing it are doing it first thing in the morning. And many of them say, hey, if you win the morning, you win the day, right? Because you have less interruptions in the morning and you can get out of the way, and then you feel good about the day. I know when I talked with Q, he always liked to get his activities done as soon as possible. And here's somebody that was it his first full year, Robert, he was chairman's club.
Yeah,
And his average sale price was under 200,000.
right.
So, we have a team here of very capable, experienced people with access to others that are, crushing it. The question is, are you willing to hold yourself out to that discipline of blocking time, of committing to doing it? One of the sayings that I like to share with others is, everybody has days that they don't feel like getting on the phone and calling. They don't feel like, going out and knocking on a door. They don't feel like doing the activities they know they should do. But the difference is the people who are at that 20, 30, $40 million range, guess what, guys and gals, they just do it anyway. They don't feel like it, but it's not an option not to do it, because once you stop doing it, you have a break in the habit. Okay, you can lose all your momentum in totality. So I see, well, where did Pavla? I saw Pavla on here. Is she still with us?
I don't see her.
She
was
I guess
I
she,
had seen her, yeah.
I guess she dropped off. I am not a 1, 2, or 3, person or 3 activity individual. Everybody on this call or on this Zoom meeting is going to do things differently to maximize their business. But I challenge you to avoid the randomness of your business and to have dedicated time that you invest in doing activities and measure those activities, right? So if you're random, it's the easiest way of describing it is nobody in their right mind would spend $800, $2,000 to do one mailing and not follow up on it. I think every single industry professional would say, look, you need to have that consistency to build your brand recognition, your name recognition. It would likely be a foolish investment to do a massive mailing and only be able to afford to do it once. The same is true with any activity we do. The more we do it, the better we get at it, the more comfortable we get at the activity, the greater the result, and the more likely we are to continue doing that. Does that make sense? So I'm going to, before I go into my list, I just want to ask the group, like, what's your top activity for, generating new opportunities or finding ways to serve more clients?
Video.
video. That's, you do it on social media, Glenn, and through email?
Yeah, 11,000 last year and a bunch of YouTube videos.
You know, I'm going to say that perhaps most of us would feel even less comfortable recording videos and sending them out than cold calling expired listings. But you just have to face that and get over it, because you're missing out on a huge trove of opportunity. That provides a unparalleled scale to allow people to get to know you. What else are we doing here that we could share with the team? This is not this is not possible that you guys aren't doing it. You know, I'm signing a lot of commission checks. You're doing some activities.
Mailers, flyers.
Mailers. Now,
Working past clients,
I'm sorry.
working past clients, doing the follow-up for years past clients that we've already sold, getting the referrals, telling them how much their homes are worth that we sold them a few years ago, showing them the equity and the opportunity to upgrade and not really costing them as much money because they don't realize how much money they made on the property.
Now, for the most part, Scott, working past clients the way that you're doing it is not an expensive mail expense or marketing. It's more of a an individual effort to create some sort of a connection or to send them something of value about their home. Is that correct?
Correct. You're supposed to touch base at least 4 times a year. I do my best to do that with all my past clients. Call to say hi. I have notes, whether it be about their kids or something that they like. You know, when you call a past client, it's not just that you're the realtor. You hopefully have some common ground that you remember when you sold them the house. And, you know, so you call up, hey, how's it going? Touch base, make it friendly. And you always get to ask a question, you know, how's the house? You know, hey, have you seen the neighborhood? You know, how much it's worth? Have you guys thought about, you know, when you want to move next? When you ask them something soft, like when you might want to move next, you're not pushing anything now. And they'll always tell you, oh, we're thinking about it, or no, we're really happy. Either way, you know, and then you always get to end the call. Hey, don't forget, you know, if you know anybody, the referral, and you get to bring that up as well. So it's really the softest follow-up sell you can do that really does work.
And Scott, how frequently do you do that?
So last year, I think I told you last year was the least amount of follow-up. I think I did 2 touches last year because I was so busy. This year already, I'm on my 2nd time, obviously, as the years changed and the market's changed. So it's a little bit more important going back to the basics of keeping up with your past clients. Anyone who's been in the business for at least 3 years should have a reference to be able to go back. And again, you got to talk to them at least 4 times a year, as well as we do holiday cards. So that's another one. We send out calendars. So that's another one. And I think that's legitimately what we're doing right now, a minimum of 2 mail outs. And then I try and do 4 personal touches, which right now we're on the 2nd one this year.
And how much are you more disciplined this year to block time to do that? How are you at your level of last year, and it's only August?
So absolutely working on my discipline again. Was very spoiled with the way that the last 2 years were, where the business just kind of came my way by answering my phone. So going back to using a calendar to schedule my time. I did the Mike Ferry program years ago, and it's what helped me get to Platinum Club. And like, I'm old school, you know, but I'll like pull up real quick. So I have, actually it doesn't want to show it. Sorry, I've got the background screen on, but I have an old school big calendar book that has my week. So when I open it up, I have all my days, and I'm able to actually block out my time for any appointments. I'm working on the 3 hours a day of prospecting. It was something I used to do religious, and I got away from it. And now I'm working on getting back into it. because if you're not prospecting, you're not getting new clients. It's just as easy as that. It's, people forget real estate is a job. You know, we all signed up to, you know, have a good career, but it's a job and you got to do the things you don't like to do. Whatever makes you uncomfortable will normally make you more money. So, but yeah, scheduling is so important. And when you have one of these planners, like it starts at 5 a.m. and ends at 10 p.m. So whether it's family time or for me taking the kids to school, you can block out and know exactly how many hours are in your day. And when you know how many hours are in your day, it can help you find the time to do what's needed to be done. And it takes practice. It's not something, if you go by this planner today, you can't expect to master it, you know, in a week, because you learn things come up. There's, whether it be appointments or an emergency client or something, but it really, if you don't have some sort of planner that you're looking at every day, then it's harder to achieve any goals.
And Scott, how many hours a week would you say that you work, just to share with the group, and how much time do you take off?
You really want me to answer that?
No, I do. I want you to answer that.
So right now, school just started, so I'm going to be working more hours again, but through the summer, I probably worked 30 hours a week. And during the summer, I took off, let me see, I took off a week, the first week of summer. I took off 2 weeks, the end of summer, and I think I took off, for how long? Christina says I took a month off. That's about right. In the 2.5 months of summer, I probably had a month off.
All right, and you're going to take some other vacations throughout the rest of the year too, right?
Yeah, my next vacation is scheduled for the week of November, Thanksgiving. I always take the last 2 weeks of the year off to go to the mountains. And besides that, I might have to do one more Tennessee trip for 4 days for some planning. But I'm pretty focused on sticking to a schedule for the rest of the year, because I don't want to fall into that slump. If you don't keep focused, then towards the end of the year, you have less deals. And historically, I've always been able to have a great December and start off January strong. And that's because starting with now, staying focused, doing those follow-ups, you're going to get a lot of people who aren't ready right now because school just started. This is not their mindset. But any hint of the possibility, if you keep following up, you will either get them before the holidays or right after. So I find that this is a great time to talk to people.
So I'm not talking out of turn here. You can look Scott up. He's listed in RE/MAX as a Chairman's Club member, which means that you were between $500,000 and $750,000 of income. And just by taking a quick look at your schedule, it looks like you took about 2 months off. And I'm not trying to say that everybody needs to be, you know, working more and more hours. I just think we need to have a balance, and we need to have a structure so that we can achieve what we're looking for, right? Because if you didn't take those vacations and you worked an extra 6 weeks of those 2 months, you probably would be less productive, because, you know, in my time that we spent together, you light up when you're looking forward to those mini getaways. And and you really don't have a team, so you figure out how to get around when you're not there getting stuff done as well. And I think a lot of people feel that if I'm not here, I can't be productive, and you're an example of how you could be. So I appreciate you sharing that, Scott. And sharing that, Scott. And I want to go through a couple of your other things that, you know, come to my mind. One low-hanging piece is, you know, we as a RE/MAX company have not really taken advantage of the First app. And I think our nature is, if something doesn't provide an immediate result, or if there's a little bit of a challenge in getting comfortable with it, you know, we put it to the side and never return. And I think, you know, Maria, is Carly on now, or Carly? Is that a yay or a nay?
RE/MAX training, that's Carly. I don't know what she's doing.
Right. So if Carly can unmute herself,
Can you reach out?
I'm gonna invite, don't worry about it, Maria. When she gets back, we'll come back to her. But you know, I was at a team meeting with the Tejada team yesterday, and you know, there are people that are doing door knocking and phone calling and expired, and I really, you know, wanted to spend, you know, 4 hours there because I felt I could continue to make a contribution and add some value, because the consistency and the mastery is really, that has to go together, because if you're not consistent, you'll never master it, right? And if you don't master it, I don't believe you're going to continue with it. Does that make sense? So, you know, doing it, you know, an hour, 2 times a week is not going to get you to mastery. Okay. If you don't have the prior skill set of succeeding at, you know, door knocking, cold calling, working online leads, you know, leveraging video, without results, you'll probably abandon those activities. And that's what I'm trying to get us to avoid. And I really, really, really encourage everybody, even though it's not our nature, is to keep track of what we're spending our time on in terms of growing our business, and then measure the results. Okay. And if those results aren't improving over time, or those results aren't giving you, I'm going to put it right out on the line. If you're spending 15 hours a week, which is not an excessive amount of time, getting out of your comfort zone and, you know, reaching out for new business, trying to grow your business, if you're not spending that amount of time, I don't see how you can expect to have a major breakthrough. And if you are doing that, I encourage you to measure it. And I encourage you to reach out to your office leadership, or even myself, and let's look at how that time is providing a yield for you, right? And if you're doing 3 things and one of them is obviously not working out, and we can't turn the corner on that, maybe we need to substitute it with something else. Or it's even possible that, you know, you could be doing, you know, doubling down on 2 things that you know are getting you results. Okay. I'm going to also just go on record saying, if you were to do Vulcan 7 calling for 2 hours, or Mojo or RedX or whatever your dialer of choice is, for 2 hours 3 times a week, I cannot see how you don't set up a listing. You don't make 1 listing appointment every week. And TJ, you were in Morristown, or you weren't in Morristown, were you?
No.
Okay, but listening to the calls yesterday, and, you know, Anthony, you were in Morristown and Franklin Lakes. You know, we did probably about 2 hours and 25 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes of actual calling between those 2 days. Would that seem reasonable?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And during that period of time, could you imagine like repeating those 2 hours 3 times and not getting 1 listing appointment? Can you fathom that, Anthony?
Not at all.
No.
TJ, it's not even possible, right?
Not possible at all, especially when you're hitting that many numbers in such a short period of time.
Now, if somebody came to you and said that they were doing it and it wasn't working, you know, as a leader in our Paramus office, would you sit with them for an hour and listen to what they're doing?
100%.
Would you insist that they send you the results from the calling session and you take a look at how many answers and what's going on? Absolutely. And you know, it's funny, when I was at the Tejada at the Tejada team meeting, we're talking about how, you know, people can sense the fact that you care about helping them, and you can't pretend to care. Like, you have to have that sincerity and passion in the activities that you do to get the desired result. So on my list here, I'm going to focus mainly on activities that don't cost us in our pocketbook, because our pocketbook activities could come later when we do our business planning. But doing videos is virtually a free activity. You might have to pay for a BombBomb or something, which is minimal. Working past clients. You know, if you're not a chairman's club and you didn't, you know, get a 1099 for $500,000 or more, I want you to take a look at, somebody like Scott, who is now focusing on, I want to touch my clients 4 times a year. I want to do activities to outreach and build on those relationships. I want to have a vibrant database where I know, the kid's name, who's in school, who's going to college, so that I can have a meaningful, valuable conversation with my clients and sphere of influence. If you're not taking advantage of some of the training that Carly and Maria are doing, like this is, we had an agent from Keller Williams, not to name names, come over and say, Rob, you have all these resources. My biggest problem is I don't know which one to do, because everything else, they had to pay for. Now, because you're not putting a credit card up and paying for these resources, please don't ignore them as having a tremendous value. Okay. So, if you're not satisfied with where your business is, go out of your way, attend Carly, attend Maria's training, come to a role play dialing session on Thursdays from 5 to 8. Okay. I'm taking 3 hours of my day to drive around to different offices to make it convenient for you guys to have access to what I believe is a tremendous underutilized resource. I mean, 6 hours, 1 listing appointment, and even if half of those listing appointments they either cancel or they don't go with us, that's 2 listings a month. Take a look at what the average listing in your marketplace is and say, is it worth 6 hours a week to get 2 new listings a month? Is there anybody that wouldn't, do something uncomfortable for 6 hours a week to get 2 listings a month? If there's anybody that doesn't want to do that, pipe up. I mean, I would like to, have a conversation, but, it does require us to get outside of our comfort zone. Requires us to look forward to communicating with people about how we can help them, right? And TJ, do you remember the overall objection handler from? I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you remember? Hey, my house is not on the market, or I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay a commission.
Hey, we're not trying to sell you anything. We're just trying to see if you might know anybody in the area that might be able to help find a place near here or something close to that.
That would be the door knocking one, but if we're talking to somebody, Anthony, how about you? You know what, Anthony, I don't want to work with the realtor. I'll give you 2% if you bring me a buyer, right? You're going to get that a lot. How do you overcome that? I don't want to put you on the spot if you're uncomfortable, but if you're comfortable, go out there with it.
Hey, Rob, if I could show you how I could save more money, even after paying a commission in the shortest period of time with the least stress, do you think you might be able to spare me 15 minutes?
Okay, I can do 10, 15 minutes if you come by.
That's great.
So, I mean, and that was, set out of contribution, that's about a 70% delivery rate there, Anthony. We got a little work to go, but I appreciate you sharing in front of 89 people. It's not easy to try to go on cue and perform, but we can improve that, and it will change, the outcome dramatically. And Anthony was at a listing appointment. We called on Thursday. When did you go on your appointment?
So we called on Thursday. The appointment was set for the following Wednesday.
So 6 days later, you're on a listing. What was the approximate price range of the property?
$750,000.
750,000. And if you were to, how long have you been doing real estate, Anthony?
31 years.
So if you were to like put odds on it, what's your shot at getting that listing? 0 to 100.
I'm at 90%.
So you got 90% chance of getting a $750,000 listing from an hour and 20 minutes of calling.
Yes.
And this is not just random cherry picking data. Like, this happens all the time.
Rob, if I could just, because this is gold in here, and I think it's really important for everybody here on this call to understand. I used the Vulcan system before, and I was just thrown into it, and I didn't have the necessary scripting that you have perfected here. And this is a non-threatening script. So I would advise anybody who's on here who hasn't taken a training session or, done the calls to start doing it, because there's lots of value here for anybody who really wants to drum up business.
And Anthony, the whole paradigm shift is, when we're communicating, it's like, hey, and I'm going to just tell you like the vibe I put out there. Anthony, if I could help you out, can we get together for 15 minutes? And then if we get together for 15 minutes, if it makes sense, could we agree when we get together if we're a good fit to work together? Right? That's not salesy, right? I believe in what I do. I gave very specific strategies to work with people that aren't referrals, because we sat with an agent from the Franklin Lakes office who said 95% of my listing business is referrals. Well, I got a news flash for you. If you have a referral or somebody says that, hey, Anthony did a great job, he sold my last 3 houses, you ought to call him. That may be a layup, right, Anthony?
Correct.
But if you're going to somebody who had a bad experience with the real estate industry, their listing expired, even in a hot market, and now you need to go out there, it can't be a random walk. You have to be specific, and you have to identify how you can add value and provide a better pathway for them to get the outcome they want.
It's very important, I think, also, is that you have the ultimate listing presentation on your YouTube. And for everybody who's here on this call who hasn't had an opportunity to hear it, between the dialogue between you and Audrey, it's very important. And I took the time out and I did the spreadsheet. And now that I have that all prepped and ready, it's going to be much easier the next time I go on an appointment with that tool, that skill set that you provided. So thank you, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, it was when we had 3 or 5 offices, I could, take an hour or 2 and go over it and help everybody prepare it. But I think, the fact that we've been blessed with a tremendous amount of growth, I've been forced, and I think this is a good way to document those activities so that it's on demand whenever you want to take a look at it. And that was a example that I put on. After the example, Audrey went and got the property listed, 15,000 less than they wanted to do it, and she sold it for 93,000 more than it was listed for. That's a real live example. It wasn't baked. That was up on our YouTube channel well before she went and relisted the property, and well before it closed for 93,000 above asking price on a 595 listing. So these are great, stories. They're real. I'm sure there will be some of them that don't work out like that. But again, I'm blessed with having, phenomenal stories by just putting the interest of the client and putting your interest ahead of mine, so that we wind up with these, fantastic success stories. And I truly believe if we do the right thing and people believe that we're doing the right thing, they will follow and get a positive result. And the ultimate listing presentation is on the YouTube channel, Abundance in Real Estate. Okay, and if you go there, just so that we have more visibility, and I can even get my own name for the channel, we need to have more subscribers and likers. Otherwise, it's some random URL that's forever. But like, comment, share it. If you know anybody else in your sphere that could benefit from some of the things that we do, tell them to take a look at RE/MAX Select, because I want to change lives. Mark Feingold, I was talking about your story yesterday. Are you somewhere you can unmute? We'll wait for him to unmute. But Mark called with a particular challenge. You there, Mark?
I think so.
All right. So what was the most memorable piece of our listing conversation in your mind?
For me, it was you handling the question of the percentage. There was $1 million+ home, and you know, the wife said, oh my God, you know, 5% of $1 million, that's a lot of money. And they started like looking at each other with the numbers, and essentially you ignored it and I zipped my lip. And ultimately you just said, so, you know, when can we get you started? when can we get this on the MLS? And they just, you know, they totally forgot it. But we built a nice rapport, and I had been building some rapport for, you know, days before that. So by the time I brought you in and Maria, they were primed. They really wanted to list.
I mean, I recall, Mark, they said 60,000, that's a lot of money, and I didn't take the bait.
Yeah, right.
And I just went back to them and I said, hey, you know, when do you think the painter could finish their work? Great. So we'll have the first open house this Sunday.
Right.
And then we sign the paperwork. They were looking for me to defend our commission is basically what I perceived, and I didn't want to go there because I didn't think it would be productive.
Right.
So like, and you probably, you know, didn't it seem like forever that I just shut my mouth?
Yes, it did. It was an uncomfortable silence.
Yeah. But, you know, I wasn't taking the bait, and, you know, we are not overpaid. I got a news flash, like we earn every penny that we make. And even though that was a over $1 million listing, what we didn't know at the time, Mark, was that there was a utility easement in the back, and that everybody that wanted to buy it wanted to put a pool in, and Mark really had to earn his money. Okay. So I really feel like that was like, that exemplifies what, you know, taking care of the customer means, and not giving away, you know, the revenue that we need to provide good service and earn a decent income. And this happens all the time, you know, and if you ever need a co-pilot for a listing appointment, having a listing conversation, every time I go out on an appointment, you know, I look at it as, you know, it might be my only time I'm going out with Jay Latanzio, so I need to make it work, right? I you know, if I win 95% of the time, but I fail on my experience with Jay, then, you know, Jay's going to be like, wow, that was really disappointing. And ironically, I just saw you there, Jay, but we even had a good appointment story, right? Jay's not
Muted, Jay.
Yeah, Jay's muted. But
Which one? There were a couple of good ones. There was 3 hours with Mike down in Keyport because he liked to talk, and Rob let him talk. 3 hours.
right,
Okay.
but remember we restructured the lease to get them the value that they wanted?
Right. So he was trying to overprice it. So Rob said, hey, listen, why don't we restructure the lease? Because it was a 2-family, semi-3-family, because he put an apartment upstairs. But he had a lease who had been a lease guy who'd been there for 14 years, I guess it was, and he was paying undervalue for the rent. And so Rob goes, all right, well, why don't we get a new lease signed for $200 a month more, so that we add value, so that now that takes care of $350,000 of the mortgage, just that part of it. And the house was about $500K. And so Mike said that made a lot of sense. And what he did is say, all right, well, why don't we tell the tenant, you're not going to pay rent for the next 2 months, but you're going to have to sign this lease before we list it. Okay, that'll hold it for a year at that higher rate to bring it to market value. And it really did. And the buyer, I happened to be lucky enough to bring the buyer, and that's totally the reason the buyer bought it, was because they had that income and the structure of the mortgage, so they could get a $500,000 home, and she was only paying whatever for 150K for a 2-family house in Keyport, is what her mortgage was on the property, which is just absolute genius. But Rob sat there quietly and listened to Mike. Mike likes to talk, he does. So Rob would just sit there quietly and ask him questions and let him talk. That's all he did, was just let him talk.
So you know, I didn't know Mike. I wasn't familiar with the Keyport real estate market. Jay gave me a short briefing before we went out there, and I think we added value to that sale. It wasn't just putting it on the market. So anyway, I'm going to finish up my list here of things that don't cost you any extra money or cost you very little money. Okay, we did videos. I'm skipping mailers because that can be expensive. You know, connecting with past clients. You know, utilizing Cole Realty, utilizing Vulcan 7. You know, you just need to reserve it. To reserve that dialer, you just need to email remaxvulcan7@gmail.com. I would say do it 2 days in advance. And when you reserve it, you know, please respond back with the history showing that you made the calls, because we want to help you. And if you reserve it and you don't use it, you know, it doesn't do any good. And it also denies that spot from one of your peers. Social media, KV Core, the First app. I mean, these are some of the things that, you know, take time. Door knocking, you know, takes time. You know, I will say, you know, almost without exception, you know, when I go door knocking, everybody's like, oh my God, that was not what I expected. Everybody was so nice. You know, everybody was pleasant, you know, and it doesn't happen without putting yourself out there and maybe failing forward, right? Because Jay, I know when you went and door knocked with me, we had a great response. You know, when you did it on your own, it was a little bit slower, right?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Okay. Rob goes, all right, you got to go knock on doors for the next hour. Okay. And whatever. He goes, all right, we're going to split up about halfway through. We're going to split up. And I go knock on a door, and the guy's like, no. And I go knock on another door. The guy slams the door in my face. And then I come around the corner, and Rob's standing there with a pad getting all this person's information. And he looks at me and says, see what happens when you leave me alone? Okay. And he goes, all right, I'm going to go. But you got to go knock on doors for another hour. And I'm like, all right. And so I go to the next door, right? And he calls me. He goes, and he just left like 3 minutes ago. And he goes, hey, Jay, you got a pen? And of course, he knows I have a pad and pen in my hand because that's what I'm working. So it's a setup. And I'm like, why? He goes, well, I was driving out and there were the two people walking that had Honda shirts on, and they work for the Honda dealership. But this girl's looking for a house in Piscataway. So take her number and give me a call. And I'm just sitting there like, whatever. And then I went and knocked on a couple more doors, and I wasn't as successful. But no, it works if you do it on a regular basis and you get out into your community. I usually try to do it certainly around a listing because it helps and people know. And I can say, hey, you know, we got a listing coming up. And do you know anyone else we can help? It was an easy stand-in, and we got, I think, 7. So in an hour's time, we got 7 leads. We're probably $6 million in sales.
Wow.
When it was all said and done. So it works if you do it. So if $6 million of sales can be had in 1 hour, right, at a 2.5% commission, that's $60K. That's $60,000 an hour that Rob can make and get you to leverage your business to do the same. But like he says, you have to get into the habit of doing it consistently so you get good at it. So anyway, thank you, Rob. Yes, it's been a pleasure being at our brokerage for the 3 years I've been here.
Well,
You have
Rob?
recognized and changed my business.
thank you, Jay. Yeah.
Rob,
Yes.
I'd like to say something about the First app. It is really remarkable. And it's your easiest prospecting because these are people that already know you, that have already connected with you. Take time to go ahead and go on Max Center and explore what the First app is. It would take a long time to explain it, but it's a way of contacting your past clients. And I've had agents say to me, well, I don't want to call these people because I haven't talked to them for years. And I always say, well, thank goodness for the pandemic. Excuse me. Very easy. All you need to do is tell them that you're going through your files and you haven't spoken to them and you're just calling to see how they're doing.
Maria, is Carly still doing training on the First app?
Carly is taking care of something. She can't come on. Yes, there's schedules for her to do the First app. And when I go over it every Thursday, when I do my prospecting with Cole Realty, it's called Doubling Down with Cole and the First App as well. And Carly has had tremendous success lately. She's even gone on 2 listing appointments, and she's gotten 2 buyers from it in the past 3 months. So whoever's not using First, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be very blunt, you're a fool. This is a tool that should not be avoided. Go on Max Center, go in Remax University, do a search for First. There is a 1 hour, 6-minute video on it to get yourself familiarized with it, and go to Carly's training. And those trainings are either in Morristown or in Watchung. Not Watchung, Westfield.
Maria, are those also available on Zoom?
For Florida, yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, so if you're in New Jersey, if you're in New Jersey,
And you were, Rob, you were talking about, free things. Okay, First costs you $465 a year. To me, I would put that in the free thing category. It is such a valuable tool. I really feel it's one of the highlights of Remax is to have this tool. Do yourself a favor, and like Maria says, go on and explore it.
right, but
What is that? I am sorry, I didn't understand. Which tool is that?
I'm gonna put the link on the chat. Let me go get the link.
So, Tony, it's called the First app, F-I-R-S-T app. It's a technology that Remax LLC purchased, and it's only available to Remax members. Now, I will tell you, don't spend your money on the First app unless you're going to use it. Okay, and like any other technology, that you should expect to have a few challenges getting it set up, and you might have to tweak it a little bit, but anything that's worth having is worth going through that investment in getting it set up correctly and then following up on it. And everybody on this call has access to your office leadership to hold you accountable. I mean, we're not going to do the activities for you, but we can hold you accountable. I think our leadership team will step in and do.
Hold on.
I think our leadership will, step in and do anything we ask you to do. We'll show you proof of concept. You're here
Video and stuff of this.
Fred, can you mute everybody? And then I'll unmute myself. All right. So, anything that we're talking about here, like we have a practical leadership team, and I want to hear from Ron, because I see some of my associates up here in Westfield, they lock the door and they are on their sessions with you, Ron. I know I waved to you a couple of times, but tell us a little bit about like what you're doing to nurture our agents and build it.
Okay.
Well, we do role playing on Thursday. So yesterday we role played listing appointment objections, which really helps a lot of the agents out, because when you go to a listing appointment, you have to be on your game. And so I was trying to tell everyone that they need to shake off the nervousness, practice your scripts, don't personalize them, but don't be a robot. Be natural, follow the conversation when you get with the sellers. And on Tuesday's classes that we did, as a matter of fact, I just want to give a shout out to 5 agents that I've been working with that did the 90-day program. They just graduated. I think Karen Deakins from up in Jersey there, and Jason Batista and Miguel Rodriguez and Julian Rodriguez. Who else we got? A couple other ones. They just finished. They started with having very, very little bit of business. Now they're closing deals, they're getting listings, they're knocking on doors, they're cold calling, and they're making money. So I want to give a shout out to them. But on Tuesday's class, what we do is I just give a lot of tips and techniques on what I did to make money and to be successful in this business. And then on Thursday, we do the role playing. So it works out pretty good.
So, what objections are you role playing, Ron, primarily?
Well, commission wise, people are saying that they're, well, they want to think about it before they list the property, or, we're seeing another agent before we make a decision. So I tell the agents, if they're saying that you didn't overwhelm them with your presentation. So some of the objections could be, well, your commission is too high, or things like that. And we go over probably about 12 of them, 12 really strong objections, and how to overcome them. And a lot of agents like it. They feel more comfortable after we finish the role play. I have them role play with me. I do it by myself first, and then they go ahead and follow. And it works out pretty good for them.
And Ron, do you do any training on, getting buyers to be in alignment with what needs to be done to get properties accepted, offers accepted?
I'm sorry, you broke up there. I didn't hear quite what you said.
I said, do you ever do any coaching on how to your buyers to get their offers accepted?
Yeah, we do that on Tuesdays. Once in a while, we'll throw in that class.
Because I see a tremendous need, especially for some of us that have been in the business for a long time, that the conversation with a buyer has to transition, right? And the same strategy that we used 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is likely to give us some challenges. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes.
And, I have a, belief that if we could, and I know you've been proving it, on a consistent basis, that if you can demonstrate, that you're here to help and have the communication, skills to show them that, we're the obvious choice to get their property sold. I think that we've come a long way in those conversations. But sometimes we feel like, oh, it's up to the buyer to make whatever offer they're making, and they're not realistic, or there's just too many offers out there. And I really feel like we need to migrate our skill set to balancing ourselves out, where we can have conversations with buyers that are similar. I mean, it's similar in purpose, but the dialogue is different. But it's basically a reverse listing appointment. Right, where you show them how the properties behave, you educate them, and then you ask them, how do you want to, proceed if you want to win this property, right? And using emotional words, elicit different behaviors from, buyers. I know you want to say something there, Ron?
Yeah, well, you just said the magic words, educate them. You have to take control of the situation. Don't let them have control over the conversation when you're talking to them about making an offer. You got to educate them first, and then give them the opportunity to make the decision. We worked on it a couple of times, and we role played it on Thursday for not this in the course of all the classes that I gave, but we did a class on that too, with buyers and having control over the conversation and just educating them. That's the biggest part.
If I could just say, Ron, that I think that that's the right way to go also for a listing appointment. You're there to educate them, and you need to keep control of the conversation.
Yeah, like my son, he prospects probably 3 or 4 hours a day. And we got a listing last night from a cold call he made about a month ago. Was 1.22 million in Parkland. So he asked me, he was kind of nervous about going on this appointment. He says, so what should we say? What should we do? And I said, relax, follow the conversation, just have a conversation with people, get them, show them your personality, follow what they say. And then, you know, it's all kind of a natural thing. I mean, you can't be a phony because it's recognized by the seller. You got to be normal and natural and just have a conversation with them like you're at a bar or you're at a party and you're talking to them, whatever. And when it gets time to get down to the nitty gritty of business is where they'll stop and listen to you. Because if you get into business right away on a listing appointment, you're going to lose that listing appointment. You got to control it, talk to them as you're walking around the house, ask questions, joke around with them a little bit, just be normal, natural. And we went on that appointment yesterday. It was very easy. We got the listing. We tried to get to 6%. We got 5%, but we did everything that I told my son to do. Just be normal and talk. My son's got the gift of gab anyway, so he can talk. But I just, you just got to control the conversations, and you'll have a better outcome.
So, if I was to, summarize, both of the engagements with a buyer and a listing opportunity, it's to educate both clients and to give them choices, but all the obvious choices are working with us, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And one of the cardinal sins I see in the industry is we how can I put this politely? We tell people how things are instead of letting them discover. And, perfect example was when I was role playing with the Tejada team yesterday, like somebody who's predisposed to overprice their house, right? And, one of the team members was like, I just tell them that, if you overprice the house, you're going to get less offers. And when you have less offers, you're not going to get the highest price. So therefore we need to price it more aggressively, right? And then they're like, oh, well, you just want me to lower my price just so you can make an easy sale, was the perception from that conversation. But I think if you ask them questions, like say, hey, Ron, if you wanted to list a house for 1.4 instead of 1.2, Ron, what would happen if we don't get an offer or two in the first 2 weeks?
You got to make an adjustment on the price.
So we're going to make an adjustment. Now, Ron, if we make an adjustment on that price, and now we have a new audience looking at this property, when they see it's been on the market for 3 weeks and we lower the price by 100,000. How do you think they're going to go about making an offer, Ron?
They're going to probably beat you up on the offer. They're going to come in a little lower because they'll think that you're going to be more motivated.
Right. So when I ask that to a homeowner, they're telling me that, if we've been on the market, if I put it on the market for 2 weeks and then we lower the price and everybody sees it's been on for 2 weeks and we cut the price, that they're going to try to lowball it and they're going to try to steal the property, or they might think there's something wrong with the property.
Exactly.
And then after I ask that, I say, so Ron, how are you thinking that we're going to position the house when we put it on the market? Now think about the question is, it's not, are you choosing to work with me? It's like, hey, Ron, when we put your home on the market, did you want to go auction, market, or lottery? How did you think you wanted to do it? And they'll be like, well, definitely don't want to go lottery. That's foolish, right? And then you're left with two pretty good options, right? Putting it where it's likely to sell, or pricing it a little bit below what it's going to sell for to get, massive demand. But go ahead, Ron.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I used that tactic last night. And I was ready for it. So he wanted it listed at 1.4, and I gave him the three scenarios. I said, well, have you ever won the lotto? And they looked at me and said, what do you mean? I said, have you ever won the lotto? And they said, no. I said, okay. I said, if you price your property lotto price, what do you think is going to happen? Well, probably nothing. So if you market it at market price, I said, you'll probably get a few showings and maybe a couple of offers, or you can go to the auction price, which I recommend. You'll get probably a load of offers maybe even cash buyers that'll go over market value. So which of the three would you like to take? And they said, well, I don't think auction would be good. I said, well, I just explained to you. So we went market price. So I got them down to 1.2.
So Ron,
Perfect.
Ron, I'm going to give you a golden nugget here that you should write down, and everybody else might want to even jot this down. I never recommend, and I would just say, if you've been on a listing with me, I'd say, hey, Ron, some of my more savvy sellers are opting to go with auction style where they price it. Okay, because if you recommend something and they don't follow what you recommend, it's, to me, I just don't like that. I like to give them the option, and I make the obvious option what I believe to be the best, because I don't think you can underprice a house, especially in this market, because people will go crazy. You'll have so many offers that you'll be able to drive it to the full value. Audrey did that with the listing I did on the Abundance in Real Estate channel. If you watch that, you can see the date that was posted. That was the information we used to prepare it. She sold it for $93,000 more, public record. Okay, so the numbers aren't baked. These aren't made up stories for these meetings. When you say, hey, the three ways, auction style, lottery style. Have you ever won the lottery? I love that you use that language, because and even if they did win the lottery, I'm like, you're not going to win it twice. Whatever they say, I'm going to twist it so that it educates them. Market based, and then, hey, Ron, more savvy sellers are opting to use the lottery style. Not the lottery, the auction style. So they get multiple bids and maximize the value of their property. And it's a wet solution. It works every time. It never fails.
That's good. I like that.
All right. So we're at the 10:31 hour. I hope I added some value. I would encourage everybody to set up an appointment with your office leadership team and have a conversation with them, one professional to another, on what 3 things you want to change and how you're going to dedicate 15 hours to make at least 100,000 or more for that effort. And I'm putting a lot of work on our leadership team because I'm passionate about these activities. I know that they work. I'm going around, when I'm in Florida, I work 10, 12 hours a day trying to, get out in front of clients to show you that these techniques work. And I'm going to be traveling around New Jersey to different offices to make it more convenient for you to show up. But, if I was motivated, I would drive from Tinton Falls to Franklin Lakes to get some of the value that's being offered. So I wish you all a great weekend. I really appreciate everybody spending an hour here, and I hope you got 1 or 2 usable bits of information that you're going to implement.
Hey,
Rob,
Rob,
Robert, hold on. Please look at the chat. I have 2 links here for the first app. Please copy them and go on them. Thank you.
All right, I'll stay on for any questions, but if you have to go, please drop off. Go ahead, Robert.
I just wanted to say, going back to the things you can do for free that work really well for me, was volunteering at events in the towns where you want to be doing business. There were 2 major events every year in Mountain Lakes, and I volunteered for them. And one of them was a holiday house tour where I was a greeter at a house. And so I had the opportunity to meet 300 people in a 3-hour period of time, year after year. And I generated a lot of business from those brief conversations. And I always kidded that it was like doing an open house without any opportunity of selling the house. So just think about that. It didn't cost anything but time, but it got me a lot of exposure in the town.
And if you, for some reason, still can't get the ultimate or access to the Abundance in Real Estate channel, just reach out to your manager and go on it together. Just take advantage of the tremendous knowledge that collaboratively we all have here. I mean, you've all done amazing things. If we share those ideas across the group, it just makes it that much easier for us. And we know that it works and it's not some marketing ploy. Any last questions other than that, Robert, or comments?
I'm good.
All right. Everybody have a fantastic weekend and live abundantly. All right. Bye-bye.